Seniors, there is something deeply unsettling about believing you are taking care of your body, doing what is right, following what you have been told for years, and yet slowly, quietly, something is no longer working the way it once did. There is no pain at first, no clear signal that something needs attention, just a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, in the way your body responds, in the way your steps feel, in the way your balance no longer carries the same quiet certainty it once did. For a long time, vitamins have been seen as allies, small daily gestures of care. Something simple that gives the feeling of protection, of control, of doing your part to stay strong as the years pass. And in many ways, that belief is not wrong. But what changes, and what very few people take the time to truly understand, is that the body you live in after 60 is not simply an older version of the one you had before. It is a body that processes differently, that reacts differently, that requires a different kind of attention, more precise, more aware, more aligned with what it truly needs now. And this is where a quiet misunderstanding begins to take shape. Because when habits remain the same, but the body has already changed, what once helped can begin, very slowly, to create imbalance. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that calls for immediate concern, but in a gradual, almost silent accumulation of small effects that over time begin to influence how you move, how you feel, and how stable you truly are without even realizing it. You may wake up one day and notice that your legs feel slightly heavier, that your steps are a little less confident, that your body hesitates for a fraction of a second longer than it used to. Nothing alarming, nothing that seems urgent, and yet something is different. And the truth is, these changes rarely appear suddenly. They are built quietly, day after day, through processes that remain invisible until they reach a point where they can no longer be ignored. And perhaps the most important part of all of this is that you can feel completely fine while it is happening. There is no immediate warning, no clear sign that something should be adjusted. Everything seems normal until one day balance feels less reliable, or a simple movement requires more effort than before. And by that time, the body has already been adapting, compensating, trying to maintain stability in ways that are not always sustainable. But here is where things begin to shift. Because understanding this is not about fear, it is about awareness. It is about recognizing that small, consistent choices, the ones that feel harmless, even beneficial, can have a different impact depending on how the body receives them at this stage of life. And once you begin to see that clearly, you also begin to understand that change does not need to be complicated. It simply needs to be intentional, thoughtful, and consistent over time. And when we begin to look more closely at what we take every day, one nutrient appears almost immediately. A vitamin that has been recommended for years, especially as we grow older. A vitamin associated with strength, with protection, with the idea of preserving what time slowly tries to take away. Vitamin D has become for many seniors a symbol of care, something almost automatic, something that feels safe. And yet, what is rarely explained with the same clarity is that the body does not remain constant. The way it handles nutrients changes with time. Absorption shifts. Regulation becomes more delicate. And what once worked in a simple and predictable way may no longer behave the same. Not because the vitamin itself has changed, but because the body receiving it is no longer the same. Vitamin D plays an important role in helping the body absorb calcium. This is well known. It supports bone health, contributes to immune function, and has been widely studied for its benefits. But after 60, this relationship becomes more sensitive. Because when vitamin D increases calcium absorption beyond what the body can properly manage, that calcium does not always go where it is needed most. Instead of strengthening bones, excess calcium may begin to circulate in the bloodstream, and over time, it can settle in places where it does not belong. In the walls of blood vessels, in soft tissues, in areas where flexibility and flow are essential. And this process does not happen suddenly. It develops quietly, gradually, without obvious discomfort in the beginning. As this accumulation progresses, blood vessels may begin to lose some of their natural elasticity. Circulation becomes less efficient, and when circulation changes, even slightly, the effects can reach the parts of the body that depend on it the most: the legs, the feet, the muscles responsible for balance and movement, areas that require constant support to function with precision. This is why some seniors begin to notice subtle changes. Not pain, not a clear warning, but a difference in how the body responds. Steps that feel a little less stable, movements that require more attention, a sense that balance is no longer something automatic, but something that needs to be maintained consciously. And because these changes are gradual, they are often attributed simply to aging itself. But what if part of that change is not just time, but imbalance? What if something that was meant to support the body is now interacting with it in a way that no longer fits its current needs? And if that is the case, then the question is no longer whether vitamin D is good or bad. The question becomes how it is used, how it is balanced, and whether the body is truly receiving it in a way that supports strength rather than quietly reducing it. And this is where a deeper understanding begins to change everything. Because when we move away from the idea of taking more and begin to focus on giving the body what it can truly use, a different kind of support emerges. One that does not force the body, but works with it. One that restores balance instead of creating hidden tension. And among the nutrients that play this role quietly and consistently, magnesium stands out. Magnesium is not often spoken about with the same urgency as other vitamins, and perhaps that is why it is so often overlooked. Yet it is involved in hundreds of processes inside the body. It supports how muscles contract and relax. It helps regulate nerve signals. It contributes to the stability of the cardiovascular system, and for a body that is learning to adapt to the changes of aging, this kind of support becomes essential. When magnesium levels are sufficient, muscles respond more smoothly. Movements feel more coordinated. There is less unnecessary tension, less stiffness, and more fluidity in the way the body carries itself. But when magnesium is low, even slightly, the body begins to compensate. Muscles may feel tighter, reactions may slow down, and the natural ease that once defined movement may begin to fade in subtle ways. There is also an important relationship between magnesium and calcium that becomes more significant with time. While calcium is often associated with strength, magnesium helps guide how calcium is used. It supports balance. It helps ensure that calcium is directed toward the bones, where it belongs, rather than accumulating in places where it can create restriction. Without this balance, even well-intended supplementation can lose its effectiveness. Many older adults live with low magnesium levels without realizing it. The signs are rarely dramatic. They appear as small changes. A sense of fatigue that lingers longer than expected. sleep that feels less restorative, muscles that do not recover as easily. And because these signs can be attributed to many things, the underlying cause often remains unnoticed. But when magnesium becomes part of a consistent routine, something begins to shift, not in a sudden or overwhelming way, but gradually. The body starts to respond with more clarity. Movements feel more stable. The connection between mind and body becomes more reliable. And with that, a quiet sense of confidence begins to return. And yet, even with this support in place, there is another factor that influences everything we have spoken about. Something so simple that it is often ignored, and yet so fundamental that without it, even the best intentions struggle to take effect. Because the body does not function in isolation. It depends on a constant internal environment to operate smoothly. And that environment is shaped, more than most people realize, by something as basic as daily hydration. And this is where something very simple begins to reveal its true importance. Hydration is often treated as a minor detail, something secondary, something that can be adjusted without much consequence. But after 60, hydration is no longer just about comfort. It becomes a foundation, a quiet support system that influences how every part of the body communicates, responds, and maintains balance. As we age, the natural sensation of thirst becomes less reliable. The body no longer signals the need for water with the same clarity it once did. And because of that, many older adults live in a state of mild dehydration without even realizing it. Not enough to feel alarmed, not enough to create immediate concern, but enough to slowly affect how the body performs throughout the day. When hydration is not consistent, the blood becomes slightly thicker. Circulation becomes less efficient. Oxygen and nutrients take longer to reach the muscles and the brain. And once again, the effects are subtle. Movements feel a little slower. Reactions take a fraction longer. Coordination becomes less precise. Nothing dramatic, and yet everything is affected in small but meaningful ways. The connection between the brain and the body also depends heavily on proper hydration. Even a small decrease in fluid levels can influence clarity, focus, and response time. For older adults, this can mean the difference between adjusting quickly to maintain balance or missing that moment entirely. And when that connection weakens, even slightly, the risk of instability begins to increase. Hydration also plays a role in how joints function. Well-hydrated tissues allow for smoother movement, reducing friction and stiffness. When hydration is low, joints may feel less comfortable, less fluid, and more resistant to movement. Over time, this can discourage activity, which then leads to further loss of strength and mobility. A quiet cycle that develops without being noticed. And yet, the solution remains simple. Not in theory, but in practice. Small, consistent sips of water throughout the day. A glass with each meal. A habit of keeping water within reach. These are not dramatic changes, but they are powerful in their consistency. They create an internal environment where the body can function more efficiently, more naturally, and with greater ease. And when hydration improves, something begins to align. Thinking becomes clearer. Movements feel more natural. The body responds with less effort and more precision. Combined with the right balance of nutrients, this creates a foundation that supports not only strength, but confidence. The kind of confidence that allows you to trust your body again. And when you step back and look at all of this together, it becomes clear that aging is not simply about what time takes away. It is also about what we continue to give ourselves. Because in the end, the difference between decline and stability often comes down to awareness, to small daily decisions, and to the willingness to adjust, even slightly, in order to protect what matters most. And when you begin to see these pieces together, something shifts in the way you understand your own body. It is no longer just about following advice or repeating habits that once felt right. It becomes a process of listening more carefully, of noticing what supports you and what quietly works against you. Because after 60, the difference is not made by extremes, but by alignment. What you take each day, what you choose to continue, and what you decide to adjust. All of these become part of a larger picture. A picture that shapes how you move, how you think, and how you experience the years ahead. And the truth is, the body does not ask for perfection. It asks for consistency. It asks for awareness. It asks for small decisions that respect what it has become. Avoiding what no longer serves you is just as important as adding what helps. Understanding that even something as familiar as a vitamin can have a different effect now is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for clarity. It is an opportunity to move forward with more intention, with more precision, and with a deeper sense of care. Supporting your body with what it truly needs, whether it is better balance in nutrients, consistent hydration, or simple daily habits that restore stability, is not complicated. But it is meaningful. Because each of these choices builds something over time. Not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily. And that steady process is what protects your independence. Independence is not only about strength, it is about trust. Trust in your steps, trust in your balance, trust in your ability to move through your day without hesitation. And that trust is built quietly, through the way you take care of yourself when no one is watching, through the decisions that seem small but carry weight over time. So, if there is one thing to take from this, it is this. Do not assume that what worked before will always work the same way. Give your body the attention it deserves now. Question what you take. Support what truly helps. And allow yourself to adjust without resistance, because that is where real strength begins to grow again. Take a moment to reflect on what you learned today and how it applies to your own routine. Small awareness can lead to meaningful change, and if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who may also benefit from it. Like this video, subscribe for more guidance designed to support your strength and independence, and continue choosing what helps you move forward with confidence. Because aging does not have to mean losing control. With the right daily choices, it can mean protecting it. And perhaps what matters most, beyond everything we have explored, is the understanding that your future is not decided all at once. It is shaped quietly, day after day, in ways that often go unnoticed until time has already moved forward. There is something powerful in realizing that the body is always responding, always adapting, always reflecting the choices that are repeated with consistency. And when those choices begin to align with what your body truly needs now, something begins to change, not only physically, but in the way you experience your own life. It is easy to think of health as something distant, something that belongs to doctors, to tests, to numbers on a report. But in reality, it lives in the ordinary moments, in what you choose to take each morning, in how you support your body throughout the day, in the small decisions that seem too simple to matter, but over time become the difference between decline and stability. This is where real transformation happens, not in dramatic shifts, but in quiet consistency. There is also a deeper layer to all of this, something that goes beyond the physical. When you begin to care for your body with more awareness, you are also restoring a sense of control, a sense that your life is still yours to shape, that you are not simply reacting to time, but actively participating in how you move through it. And that feeling, that sense of agency, becomes just as important as any nutrient or habit. Many people reach a point where they begin to believe that change is no longer possible, that the body has already decided its path. But that is rarely true. The body continues to respond for as long as it is given the opportunity to do so. It may take patience. It may require small adjustments repeated over time. But the capacity to improve, to stabilize, and to regain confidence does not disappear as easily as people think. And when you start to notice even the smallest improvements, something shifts internally. A step that feels more stable, a movement that feels more natural, a moment where you realize that your body is responding differently than it did before. These moments may seem minor, but they carry meaning. They remind you that change is not only possible, but already happening. So as you move forward from here, do not look for perfection. Do not look for immediate results. Look for alignment. Look for consistency. Look for the quiet signs that your body is beginning to respond in a better way. Because that is where true progress lives. Not in extremes, but in steady, intentional care. And if there is one final thought to carry with you, let it be this. Your strength is not something that suddenly disappears. It is something that is either supported or neglected over time. And every day, in ways that may seem small, you are choosing which direction that strength will take. So choose with awareness. Choose with intention. And give yourself the chance to continue living with clarity, stability, and confidence in the years that still lie ahead.